Alrighty. Welcome, everyone. Happy Sunday. It is December 3rd, 2023, and we're happy to greet you and welcome you to the Clearwater Bahai's YouTube and Facebook stream as we are Zooming a presentation on a psychological perspective on the laws of the Kitáb-i-Aqdas. Now, for all of us that are aware of the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, in English, we call it the most holy book of the Bahai-Faith. And there are 8 billion ways to view the book of Aqdas. The psychotherapeutic psychiatric perspective is particularly interesting, as almost all commandments and laws deal with human relationships and only become understandable in this context. After an introduction to the book's claim as a, in quotes, charter of the future world civilization, end quotes, 9 guiding principles are presented that can help to understand the more than 200 laws and ordinances. This seminar is aimed at interested young people and adults who would like to engage intensively with the laws of the Baha'i religion. A prerequisite for participation is openness to new perspectives. That's the lens we're going to be viewing all of this today with. Now, our presenter, who we're so grateful to have with us, is Dr. Hamid Pezeshkian, MD, DM, DMSc, IDFA, PA, ECP. That's quite a roster of I'm sorry, I lost my terminology here, but that's quite a bit. And this enables Dr. Pezeshkian, who is a triple German board certified specialist in psychiatry, neurology, and psychotherapy, to really have a deeper insight in this subject. He is the managing and academic director of the Wiesbaden Academy for Psychotherapy, medical director of the Wiesbaden Psychotherapy Clinic, and president of the World Association for Positive and Transcultural Psychotherapy. With extensive experience, he holds various international certifications and memberships, including recognition from the American Psychiatric Association. Leading the Wiesbaden Academy of Psychotherapy, he oversees a state-licensed educational training program with over 200 enrolled participants and has guided more than 1,000 psychotherapists in postgraduate training. At the Wiesbaden Psychotherapy Center, over 80 resident psychotherapists conduct sessions for around 800 patients weekly. That's a lot, guys. That's a lot going on. The World Association for Positive and Transcultural Psychotherapy promotes the Baha'i-inspired method of positive psychotherapy. Developed by the late father of Pezeshkian, Dr. Pezeshkian, that is with us today, we have Professor Nusrat Pezeshkian, who developed this. The World Association expanded its reach to more than 50 countries, boasting over 2,100 members. He has organized numerous international conferences and authored several books, including the translated monograph, Psycho-Vampires, A Positive Approach to Energy Suckers. I bet everyone here in this room, anyone watching, you have a psycho-vampire in your life. Check that book out. Psycho-Vampires, A Positive Approach to Energy Suckers. In other words, people who suck out your energy every day. You don't know it, or maybe it's very obvious. Who knows? Born in Wiesbaden to an Iranian Baha'i and medical family, he remains dedicated to Baha'i service and has served on various elected and appointed institutions. Dr. Pezeshkian and his wife, Catherine, travel internationally, contributing to the promotion of a global civilization. That is quite a bit. And we want to thank Dr. Pezeshkian on behalf of the Clearwater Baha'is. We thank you for being here with us today. I imagine it's very cold right now, coming in from Germany. Yes, late afternoon.
Yes, it's quite cold. I mean, this is how it looks like if you compare your place and our place at that moment. That's
actually pretty accurate on the left, right there. It's There's like not many clouds in the sky, nice and sunny, not too not too cold. Our snow is called sand.
Yeah. Thank you.
But with that being said,
Okay, we start, John,
please welcome. We want to welcome everyone to please type your questions in the chat, and we will address them at the discussion portion of the presentation. And we will first commence with the presentation with Dr. Pezeshkian. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, John. Well, dear friends, I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for your kind invitation and all the communication before that meeting. You see, there are more, there are easier questions to deal with. For example, I don't know which is the best beach in Florida, but maybe this even might be a difficult question, yeah? But so I try to summarize up some of the things I want to say. Well, as I said, this is actually now the situation if you compare our two places, and I would have preferred to meet you in person, because that's usually more a seminar which is better in person. But now for the time being, online has to serve for that, because it's a few kilometers or miles between our two places.
Just a little bit, just a few.
It's not too much, yeah. As you see, 10 hours then, yeah. And, you know, medical doctors always have some kind of disclosure at the beginning of their speech. This is mine, yeah. So friends, John said a lot of things what I'm doing. You know, that's usually what people think what I do. And this is actually what I do then, yeah. So as you heard, we are very active in training of psychotherapists in Germany, but also in about 20 other countries, mainly in Eastern and Southern countries, which is quite a challenge. For example, half of our members come from Ukraine and from Russia, so you can imagine what is now going on this. And so we are trying to bring some ideas to different places. Friends, some people, when they hear about today's topic, that's sometimes like their reaction, yeah. Okay, because there are easier topics than that. And let me say a few words why this topic. First of all, it's, at least for me, it's a very fascinating and very interesting subject just by itself. And often there is a question, is there any solution for the present day conflicts? You know, we hear the news, we see what is going on. Is there any vision of a future peaceful society? Or, as many people say, well, there always have been wars, so this is just in the human nature. And what does the youngest world religion offer to that? I think there's a special challenge for Baha'is with this subject. Is a challenge to understand and to follow the laws and guidance of this book. And sometimes one is lost in something, in a special law or something, or influenced very much by the daily news and opinion. I think for the friends of the Baha'is, it's sometimes also challenging, because one selects sometimes a law and is not seeing the whole picture. So the whole purpose today is maybe to encourage you just to read and to study this book by yourself. You know, both psychotherapy, which is a branch of science, and religion both deal with human relationships. And therefore, as a Baha'i psychiatrist, it's a very fascinating thing to encounter this book. And at least for me, really, it has changed my life. The first time I read it 30 years ago, since then, it has changed my professional and my personal life. In our academy, we have a proverb which says, if you want something you have never had, you have to do something you have never done. And I mean, the Baha'is and many like-minded people are in the process to establish something we have never had before, which is world united in its diversity, which is a very complex issue. So sometimes the idea is, this is like the future world. You know, everybody loves each other, paradise on earth, you have no lock at your doors, nobody is stealing, everything is fine, and so on. But that's not the Baha'i vision of a future society. And it's also not that, to say, well, everything will be good if God wants.
You cut out temporarily with your connection there.
It's not exactly the Baha'i concept. And
the ostrich put his head in the ground too long. We couldn't hear you.
Yes. Is it now better?
Yeah, we can hear you. This sounds back.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I was just saying to the ostrich, so it's also the question, how do we deal with conflicts in a future world? So the Baha'is believe there will be a peaceful world, but we must have some tools how to deal with conflicts. More than 150 years ago, Abdul Baha, the son of the founder of the Bahai-Faith, said, you find, for example, that an individual seeking to further his own petty and personal concerns will block the advancement of an entire people. I don't want to go into politics today, but you could easily apply this to a large number of political leaders all over the world. So that because of one person, the whole country is suffering then. So what does it mean? This means now we want to work a few hundred years to establish world peace. Then we have it, and then one person comes around and then destroys everything. 99% of people surely are peaceful people, but this other 1% cause a lot of trouble. So we also need some way to protect the society from these few people. Well, we have, as you mentioned, already we have also psycho-vampires, so people who, well, not only suck our energy, but they make our life really difficult. So the question is really, what does the Baha'i concept offer? And it offers a lot, as we will see now. Maybe just as a final thing of the meeting today, as the Baha'i governing body, the Universal House of Justice, says, Baha'is do not seek to impose their values on others. So that's very important today. And from this message which came out 5 days ago, every believer is free to explore the ocean of Baha'u'llah's revelation, to come to personal conclusions, to humbly share insights with others, and to strive to apply the teachings day by day. So please, I would ask you to see my reflections in this light, and then we come to your questions, and we have enough time for them. Just for information, this is usually a seminar which needs at least 1 weekend, and if you have time, end of January we have a weekend seminar here in Germany. So if you have time, you're more than welcome to come to that. So today, instead of a whole weekend, it's just 1 hour. So bear in mind that I can only try to give an overview. Today, my plan would be to say a few words about the claim and the nature of the Most Holy Book, then to introduce some guiding principles, and then bring you some examples from laws within these principles. Then. For instance, everything, as you know, starts, if we go back to, square one, as you said, to the very beginning, human beings have 3 questions. Where am I coming from? Where am I going to? And what am I going to do between that? I mean, that's if you summarize it up. And that's the reason why we have responded to the different messages of God, which are sharing things with us for thousands of years. They have revealed different books, or their teachings have been compiled in books. And today we want to speak about here the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, the most holy book, which was revealed or written exactly 150 years ago, 1873. But there is, that was the good news. The other news is, just if you take the technical advancement of the last, let's say, 100 years, I mean, it is really unbelievable. Even in our own life, and you see what has changed. We don't have time today to go much deeper into that, how things are really changing. And now this book, what we're going to discuss, claims to bring principles for the next 1,000 years. I mean, you don't know what will be really in 5 years, yeah, with all these challenges, globalization, digitalization, climate change, and. So the question would be, what would be the 10 commandments, if you want, for the 21st century? So to say, if Moses, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Buddha would come today, what would they bring us? And if you're not a religious person, okay, what is your suggestion? What is your solution to that? Something which is very important, I think, is always when someone says something, first to see what is the claim of that person. What does he want? So what is the claim of the Most Holy Book? Is it just a book? Is it, I don't know, some concept or so on then? As it is mentioned, the Most Holy Book of the Bahai-Faith claims to be the charter of the future world civilization, the chart of the new world order, laws, the law of God for at least 1,000 years, and that it addresses the needs of the entire human family. Just for your, or for our own clarification, a charter, dear friends, is like a, it's like a list of aims and principles. It's a document which describes the rights of a particular group. It is like a constitution, in a country where the laws and rules are written down, and it explains the principles according to which a nation or organization is governed. So we have to understand the Kitáb-i-Aqdas not as a code of laws, but more as a constitution. As some people who are in the legal field wrote, in the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, the essence of all Baha'i laws are said by Baha'u'llah. The readers want, during the initial foray of the book, that the tome cannot be considered as a mere code of laws. Scholars have agreed to such a view. They point out that when taken from the legal standpoint, Baha'u'llah's Kitáb-i-Aqdas reads similar to a constitution and far from a standard of court of law. So it's like a world constitution. What does it mean practically? If you compare like some national constitution with some holy books, I just took, with your permission, the German constitution and the US constitution. The German constitution has besides its preamble, 146 articles, and it had originally 11,000 words, 140 pages. The American constitution, you know better than I do, 7 articles, 4,500 words, only 12 pages. The Book of Aqdas, as you see, 70 pages, 190 articles, 7,000 words. They count the 10 commandments less than 300 words. So constitutions are brief. They only deal with basics and fundamentals. Just to give you one very short example, I just took it from Germany, with your permission. In Germany, we have more than 1,700 federal laws, I don't know, 50,000 of paragraphs, and so on and so on. Then only the tax laws in Germany, which are written in this one major book, it's more than 4,000 pages. And now we are speaking about 69 pages, which is the main part of this most holy book, and it claims to be the charter of the future world civilization. I mean, for tax, you need 4,000 books of pages for one country, and you write the charter of the future world civilization in 69 pages. So now where we go deeper, dear friends, what does it mean? So it's a question, what can I expect from the Kitáb-i-Aqdas and what can I not expect? Don't expect details, except in a few cases. Accept some basics, some fundamental laws. Yeah, it's like your own constitution in America, or let's take any other constitution. There are only fundamental laws. In the introduction of the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, which I really highly recommend to all of you, it is written that those matters of major importance which constitute the foundation of the law of God are explicitly recorded in the text. Matters of major importance. The emphasis is always made by me in all this text. A salient characteristic of the laws is their brevity. So it's more like a framework, more orientation, like a constitution with basic human laws and rights. Those of you who like some details, but these are just some figures I came up with, please check yourself. In the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, we have 217 laws, ordinances, exhortations, and so on. Then you see a lot deal with prayer and fasting, a lot with marriage, divorce, and inheritance, and then some other laws with other topics. We get later back to that. What is now the central theme of the Most Holy Book from the perspective of, well, not only from a psychiatrist, but as I understand, it's about relationships. With one word, this is a book about relationships. If you and I would have written the constitution of the New World Order, the chart of the future world civilization, we would surely have written more than 69 pages, and we would have written something about the world parliament, world government, and so on, but not about physical cleanliness, as you see later. So it shows somehow what is in this book is important, and what is not in that book, there is also maybe a reason for that. So now you might say, well, that's typical psychiatrists. They see everything from the relationship point of view. I come again to the introduction to this book, where the House of Justice writes, as to the laws themselves, they govern three areas: the individual's relationship to God, physical and spiritual matters which benefit the individual directly, and relations among individuals and between the individual and society. Very interesting, if you just allow me briefly, in positive psychotherapy, it's a humanistic psychodynamic method, we work with that when we deal with we call it the basic conflict of someone, or the four aspects of emotionality. We see there are four kinds of relationships you can have in life. The first one, I, is the relationship between my parents and me when I was a child. You, the relationship between the parents usually, or those who educated you. We is the capability to relate to other people, and primal we to religion, and so on and so on. Then again, the individual's relationship to God, physical and which is this primal we, the fourth one. Physical and spiritual matters which benefit the individual is the field of I, and the field of you and we is relation among individuals and between individual and societies. Very interesting. So from this understanding, this whole book and the laws it's all about relationships. In psychology, we say often there are three main problems people have: love, struggle of power, and money. And somehow it seems that these relationship issues have always been the major issues. You remember from Moses that where he says, love thy neighbor as yourself, or like yourself. This was written 3,500 years ago, and still it's valid. It's very interesting. So with other words, we could say that maybe we are dealing with the Akka textbook of relationships. Akka, because the book was revealed in the city of Akka. So and again, on 69 pages. Just two other things before we get deeper into that. If we say this book is also for a future society, for the next 1,000 or even more years, well, how will this future look like? I mean, in the childhood of many of us, we thought this will be the future. And this is now how it is at the present, so to say. I mean, God knows what will happen the next 1,000 years. So this must be some laws that when you read this book in 1,000 years, it still makes sense. Like when you open the Bible, of course, there are some examples, it's different, but still it must make sense today as it made sense 1,000 or 2,000 years ago. The other challenge is this principle of unity in diversity. We have 7,000 languages in the world, so you could say there are 7,000 cultures. So if this book addresses every human being, I mean, this is quite a challenge. So in every village, every city, wherever you live, you open this, it must make sense. At least this is the claim of the book. One other thing I want to explain is about this, like the duration of this law. What does it mean? As you know, it is written also the House of Justice is explicitly authorized to change or repeal its own legislation as condition change, thus providing Baha'i law with an essential element of flexibility. It cannot abrogate or change any of the laws which are explicitly laid down in the sacred text. I have to bring you one example from Germany. Sorry, it's not from the States, it's from Germany. When the German, we are not reading this all, don't get afraid. The German Constitution, which was written in 1949, so not so many years ago, it was, it was composed after the Second World War. So, and they decided from this 146 or so articles, 20 of them, they call them like fundamental rights, and they cannot be changed, not even by a majority decision of the parliament. So they never can be changed. I checked it. I think the American Constitution is only one article which you cannot change. But here it is, these 20, and they are dealing, and they call it the eternity clause or eternity guarantee. It's very interesting. And you see just from their heads, it's basic things: the protection of human dignity, equality before the law, freedom of belief, marriage, education, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, movement of persons, and so on and so on then. So coming back to that, as we read, those matters of major importance which constitute the foundation of the law of God are explicitly recorded in the text, major importance. And subsidiary laws are left to the House of Justice, this international governing body of the Baha'is. The wisdom of this is that the time never remains the same, for change is a necessary quality and an essential attribute of this world and of time and place. Therefore, the House of Justice will take action accordingly. Just imagine you would say this about Islam or Christianity, that you would say there's a governing body which will adjust a few things. But now it comes. Briefly, this is the wisdom of referring the laws of society to the House of Justice. Could it be that in the Kitáb-i-Aqdas we speak more about laws of individuals, and that the laws of society, that they must be more flexible depending on the spirit of time? Just leave you with this idea. And here, just the last thing, it is said that also in the introduction, throughout this book, it is the relationship of the individual soul of God and the fulfillment of its spiritual destiny to the ultimate aim of the laws of religion. So it's again about the relationship of the individual soul to God. So friends, having said that, I tried for myself to see, okay, if that's, how can I get an order in these 217 laws or principles? How do I understand them? And I came up with about 9 principles, and I think about 5 or 6 of them we can discuss today, which are something like guiding principles. They give a frame of reference. They are like setting the boundaries. How can we understand maybe some of the laws? Or they are like basic principles, and these are the ones I want to focus on that. And I want to bring you over to each one of them some examples from the book to explain maybe how can you understand this law in a more broad concept. I would like to start with this principle of collectivism versus individualism. You know, this again is a subject for a whole thing. You know, in most governments, most societies have these problems now. Should we have a more collectivistic or a more individualistic approach? Most of you live in the States, the most individualistic country of the world, yeah? But you know that 70% of the world population lives in collectivistic countries, yeah? And you know, in the individualistic country, it's quite simple. In the collectivistic country, the loyalty to the group is very important, and the group is more important than the individual. In the individual society or individualistic society, the individual is more important, his freedom, and so on. This is very briefly, the more red it is, the more individualistic they are. As you see, it's only a few countries. It's North America, Europe, Australia, and so on then, yeah? So most people are this. So what do we do with this thing? So what do we do with to start this way? You know, it is said in, I think it's in the writings of Islam that 124,000 prophets have come already. 123,999 dealt with collectivistic societies. Only Baha'u'llah now deals with the phenomena of individualistic societies, you know, which came up around since the 1950s. Yeah, individualistic means I just move I move tomorrow to Clearwater, rent an apartment, and then I'm just Hamid. Nobody knows from which family, what am I doing? It's just me, you know. In a collectivistic place, that's not possible then, yeah? So what do we do with that? Do we encourage the individual? Let's say like in the States, which has produced, on one hand, great things which no other country has. On the other hand, we see a lot of problems. Or do we stay more in collectivistic societies, and that is important? As in all these things, the Baha'i concept is we need both. We need very strong individuals in a collective, but they are able to submit to society, which is hardly possible. You see, in realistic means, I can come up tomorrow with a website, www.hamidsbahaiversion.com, yeah? And I can write every strange thing I want. I mean, I can do that, right? I mean, this domain doesn't exist, so don't worry. Yeah, so I mean that, so I mean, no prophet in the past had to deal with this kind of individualism. The Baha'i community has only one domain, and I have maybe my own web domain. What do? Do you say nobody is allowed to express his opinion? Do you let everybody do what he or she wants? I mean, what do you want to do? Here it's interesting. The Baha'i writings, they say the Baha'i era is thus the age of individual responsibility. Very interesting. I mean, nobody said 2,000 years ago the area of individual responsibility. Or the House of Justice said the time has come when each human being on earth must learn to accept responsibility for the welfare of the entire human family. I mean, these are fundamental things. So this is on one hand, the Baha'i concept. Yeah, very strong individuals. We will later get to that. Then we have this, is from Shoghi Effendi, who was leading the Bahai-Faith in the 20th century. He said, the Baha'i conception of social life is essentially based on the subordination of the individual will to that of society. I mean, this is a collectivistic principle. It neither suppresses the individual, nor does it exalt him to the point of making him an antisocial creature, a menace to society. As in everything, it follows the golden mean. The only way that society can function is for the minority to follow the will of the majority. So Very, very interesting point. Now let me just bring from many examples, just six of the Baha'i laws which are mentioned in this book, Aqdas, where I think this principle of the balance between collectivism and individualism is rooted, so to say. One is Baha'i consultation, so the instrument how Baha'is should solve issues and so on. Then here we have the both aspects. The individualistic aspect is one man, one vote, or one person, one vote. Yeah. If you become a member of a Baha'i institution, it's not important if you entered it yesterday or you are for generations Baha'i or so on. Then everybody can share his or her opinion. The chairperson has no veto right, no or anything else. So it's a very individualistic thing. Everybody is allowed to say and to vote. That's individualistic. The collectivistic aspect is, for example, that once you take a vote, the majority decides. Everybody has to submit to that. We don't have minority votes, so to say, then, yeah, or minority opinion which you publish, like, for example, a court does sometimes, then, yeah. And that, you know, as the Baha'is know this, that even the one who was against that should be now in support of this law. In the Baha'i administrative order, we have this, as you know, what we call we have a balance between individualistic and collectivistic institutions. Individualistic, this one-person institutions like, you know, counselors, hands of the cause of God, auxiliary board members, assistants, so the appointed arm. Collectivistic part are the local assemblies, national assemblies, and the House of Justice. So it's the idea to benefit from both of them, individualistic and collectivistic. Sorry. Very interesting is it, for example, in the law of marriage. The individualistic aspect is that one man and one woman. So it's not like, you know, like, I don't know, you get 4 or 5 partners. It's just one at one time. You can choose yourself whom you want to get married to. So it's a very individualistic thing, which does not exist in all the countries of the world. The collectivistic principle is, we get later back to that, is that the parents have to give their consent to that. It's a very collectivistic principle. So individualistic, you choose the partner. Collectivistic, the parents have to agree to your choice. You see, so all these things, it shows also how delicate it is, how complicated it is. In the Baha'i elections, we have this individualistic aspect, that there is no propaganda, no electioneering. The vote is it's by secret ballot, so nobody knows whom you're voting for, and so on. Then, sorry, if you look at your presidential election now next year in the States, you have, out of more than 300 million inhabitants, you have to choose between 2 people. Here, the Baha'is, they can choose among all of these people. So it's a very individualistic approach. The collectivistic thing is, of course, once the election has been made, you have to accept that and not to challenge this whole time. Regarding prayers, you know, for example, in Islam, we have this prayer where you get together, you know, on these Fridays and pray together. The Baha'is, they are encouraged to pray by themselves, this daily prayer, but you can get to devotional gatherings. I think this morning you had in Clearwater, yeah, 1 hour ago, you had this devotional meeting then, yeah. So again, individualistic, it is your thing when you say a prayer, and nobody is watching you. You know, if you have this collectivistic pressure, everybody's praying, so they will say, where was Hamid this morning then? Yeah, we were there, he was not there. So we don't have this social control anymore. And the last thing, for example, the mother tongue versus the international language. The Bahai-Faith encourages very much that everybody, of course, not, well, masters his mother tongue. And besides that, there will be an international auxiliary language then, yeah? So that people, so like a world language. So the world language is the collectivistic part, and the mother tongue is the very individualistic. One of these 7,000 languages I will speak, and I feel then very comfortable with that. So this was just very briefly about that. Friends, again, each of these principles needs about 1 day. So this whole seminar, if you really have time, maybe we, John, we do it 1 day at the beach in your place. It will be a 10-day seminar, really, because you have to go one by one. So I just try to summarize this up.
That sounds like a great idea. Let's do it.
More than welcome. The next one, or one of these guiding principles, is it's what we call conception of human beings, or image of that, or image of human beings. What does it mean? You know, we have in the Baha'i writings, we have one quotation where it says, "Regard man as a mind rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom." Unfortunately, in English language, you don't, you have wonderful things, but one word is missing, unfortunately, in your vocabulary. This is what we call in German Menschenbild, which means like human image. Yeah, so you have like worldview is not exactly what it means. Yeah, so this is a word which I mean, whole psychiatry, psychotherapy, philosophy bases on that. What is this? The image of human beings. So the Baha'i concept is very clear on that every human being is a mind full of diamonds, so to say. People are good by nature, no original sin, and unlimited potential of every human being. So this is like the framework. And now this has a lot of consequences now, and I'm sure in the future to come. But now, just if you just go through some of the laws revealed in the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, what can we understand them under this aspect? So we say these human beings are minds full of diamonds, brilliants, smaragds, and rubies, and so on. One is, for example, this prohibition of kissing of hands. Now, in Western societies, this is not a major issue, but in some other societies, it is an issue. Yeah. If people are equal, you should not, you know, submit yourself to in front of someone else, elderly or someone like that. Then, or asking for forgiveness of sins. Yeah, we know this in Christian culture. I mean, other cultures don't understand what it is about, but this whole thing, you know, Sunday you go to the church and then you have to ask for forgiveness of sins and so on. Then you should be aware of your sins and tell this to God in your private chamber, but not to someone else. You should tell to another sinner that you are sinning. But again, why? Because you are a mind full of diamonds. Yeah, this is the thing. So we have to protect that. How can we protect the dignity of human beings? Because human beings themselves, unfortunately, they don't do that. Prohibition of intoxicating and mind-consuming substances. There's often a discussion, well, it's only for physical health, Baha'is don't take drugs or alcohol, but might be. But I think much more it's the aspect of dignity. So to give you an example, if you lay drunk in the street, this is not dignified for a mine of diamonds. It is not. It is not, for example. Then something which is very, very challenging and interesting is the new quality of human relationships. So the Kitáb-i-Aqdas is, encouraging us, pulling us up to a new level of human relationships. Of course, to honor one's parents, this has been revealed in many religions. Then, for example, again, friends, we are speaking about 69 pages, not 6,000, 69 pages, which is less than a master thesis. Yeah. He says one has to fix the time of his return from a trip. What does it mean? Baha'u'llah says, should any one of his servants intend to travel, he must fix for his wife a time when he returns home. you know, all these laws are men and women, it considers both. So if the wife travels, it's the same thing. If he returned by the promised time, he will have obeyed the bidding of his Lord and shall be numbered by the pen of his behest among the righteous. Otherwise, if there be good reason for delay, he must inform his wife and make the utmost endeavor to return to her. So my question to you, why do you put this in the future world constitution? Why do you put this there? Maybe it has something to do with this new level of human relationships. So you say you are a mine of diamond, but your partner is also a mine of diamond. And if diamonds deal with each other, you have to, there is some kind of courtesy, dignity, and so on necessary. One is, if you go away, you tell the other when you come. Then very interesting, this whole conflict management, that's another topic for itself, and it's a whole weekend seminar. John, you can put it on your list for the second week seminar in Clearwater. What happens if you have a conflict during a journey? Baha'u'llah says if the wife, but that's again, wife and husband, it's you can change that. If the wife accompany her husband on a journey and differences arise between them on the way, you all know that this can happen sometimes, he is required to provide her with her expenses for 1 whole year. I don't know how he did that in the time with no credit card, no checks, and so on, but very interesting. And either to return her whence she came, or to entrust her together with the necessaries for her journey to a dependable person who is to escort her home. Friends, again, we are speaking about the claim of this book. The claim is the New World Constitution. It is not my idea, it is the claim of that book. So why do I write this? What does it mean? What is the implication of this law for the future? That if you have, so this means conflicts can arise. It's totally normal that between human beings, conflicts come up. So the question is not a society without conflicts, it's the question, how do we deal with the conflict? So the conflict management. In German, we call it Konfliktkultur. So the culture of dealing with conflicts. How did I learn to deal with that then? And that's the way you do. So it's not that on the highway you stop and you say, get out of this car. Yeah. No, you might have a dispute, but you have to provide that the other gets safe home and has money to live and so on then. Very interesting thing, very interesting thing. Or, okay, that's clear, not to enter a house in the absence of its owner. Very clear thing, yeah. And very interesting is the prohibition of verbal disputes and getting involved in conflicts. The Baha'u'llah just mentions that, but it is also explained that one religion before, the religion of the Bahai-Faith, it was said that if you cause sadness to your neighbor, you have to pay a certain sum, which according to the gold price of 2 days ago is $4,500. So this means now, fortunately, Baha'u'llah has so to say, not accepted that we pay this fine. He just said, don't get involved in the conflicts. But just imagine a messenger of God brings this law that if you cause sadness to someone else, you have to pay $4,500 each time. I mean, you can do it maybe how often? 2 or 3 times per year, and then more your salary won't give for that. But that's a very interesting thing. So so you see, we are speaking about the basics of society. No, unfortunately, I can't see all your faces, so I hope you are as excited as I am about that. Yeah. The other one is some other things. For example, that all these law and commandments, one has to check by himself if you're following them or not. We don't have a controlling authority or reporting system. You know, in some religions, it was seen as a religious act if you would tell, for example, this person has done, committed this sin or on and so on. Then we don't have these things. Life is private. Life is really private then, and so on. And the diamond is responsible for himself or herself. So that's the level we are called upon. For example, okay, backbiting is not only forbidden, it is mentioned in the same paragraph as murder. Also something to think about. Actually, in German, another word for backbiting is Rufmord, which means like a calling murder. Yeah, so it is very interesting. So it's really the same word actually. And now we get to something which is very interesting about cleanliness. In the constitution of the future world civilization, Baha'u'llah brings 5 principles about cleanliness: to wash one's feet, to perfume oneself, to bath in clean water, to cut one's nail, to be stainless in one's dress. Dear friends, would you have mentioned this in the Charter of the New World Order? For sure not. And I mean, to wash one's feet, I would not have put in the Charter of the World New Order. And if I have only 69 pages, I would also not have done this then, yeah? So what could be the idea of that? You know, we get later also back to a little bit. You know, spiritual people have the tendency sometimes to forget all these material things. You know, you say only the spirit is important and this and that, you know, forget the body comes and goes, you know, at the end you get rid of the body and so on. Then no, if you have a diamond, you all know that you need a nice well, I don't know, call it in English, like a box where you put the diamond, where you preserve that. You make from velvet a very nice thing inside, then like a cushion, you put the ring there and so on, then so on. Then this is the body. I mean, what is the discussion about I'm a diamond when I'm smelling in a very bad way, for example? Not really. Human people have to relate to each other. And so therefore, wash your feet, perfume yourself, bath in clean water, and so on. Then, so if 2 diamonds meet, what does it mean? Really, if I have one message from today, think about this. I mean, at least for me, this has been very really a cause to reflect a lot. So what seems to be the basics? It is not about world parliament, and so the world parliament will come when the people live in peace with each other. Don't worry about that. But it shows that there are some basics which are necessary, and you have to mention them. Okay. The next principle or guiding principle I want to share with you is the harmony between religion and science. It's one of the major basic principles of the Baha'i faith, and many laws we can understand from that. You know, there is a fight going on, which is better, religion or science? Or as they say, science flies you to the moon, religion flies you into buildings, you know, this kind of thing. Or Einstein says, science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind. For about 400 years, this fight is going on. What is better, religion or science then? And at this moment, it seems that science has won. You know, science is on the right path, and everything which is conservative, fanatism, and so on, this has to do with religion. And science is, you know, going with the how to say, with the speed of light, so to say that. Now, the Baha'i faith, again, encourages both of them. And it goes even further. It is said, any religion which contradicts science or it's opposed to it is only ignorance. For ignorance is the opposite of knowledge. There's no contradiction between true religion and true science. I mean, this is a fundamental thing which you hardly find anywhere else. Not religion or science, but religion and science is the teaching of Baha to the world today. So if you look at some of the Baha'i laws in the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, we can understand them under this principle of balance in that field. One is, for example, that you should consult competent physicians when you are ill. which is very clear to me why Baha'u'llah has mentioned that. Again, spiritual people have the tendency, or religious people, to say, I only pray. If God wants, I will survive. If he doesn't want, okay, what can you do? The Baha'i approach is pray and go to the best doctor you can find, and even get a second opinion if it's necessary then, yeah? Very balanced approach then. Not only doctors, not only prayers, both of them. Then, to engage in a profession is obligatory. This would solve so many problems of society. In this connection, Baha'u'llah says, to engage in some profession is highly commendable, for when occupied with work, one is less likely to dwell on the unpleasant aspects of life. We have this often in psychotherapy, you know, often there, for example, in a marriage, the problems change and become much less if they both are working, are more satisfied with their job, and so on and so on. Then it's a very interesting principle then, yeah? So that's obligatory for many reasons. To write a will or testament with the age of 15. Many, now we don't have time to go deeper. Many say, well, I don't have money, what should I write? And we have this often in therapy, people when they come, for example, sometimes with anxiety disorders and so on. Now, not on the first day, but later on, sometimes you encourage them to write their will. They come the next week and say, it was very difficult. But do you know what happened? Once I wrote my will, I see the fear has disappeared, because I have, so to say, encountered, I met the probability to die, but now it's in the envelope and it's aside for a long time. Again, something from religion and science. Marriage is highly recommended. This is religion, but not obligatory. This is science. Not every human being on this earth is made for marriage. It's not. Most people, yeah, but not everybody. So to summarize up, religion shows the way, science helps us to walk on this path. So that's the way. Or divorce is possible, but highly discouraged. Or it should be divorce is highly discouraged, but possible. I think that would be the right way then, yeah. Why, from the religious side, try to avoid this. From a scientific point of view, it can happen, not as often as it's nowadays, maybe in 10% of the cases where it happens, that you see it is no way that they can stay together, for example. It is clear. So if the religion would forbid divorce, would be very, very difficult, because there are some cases where it is necessary, not as much as it is today then. Yeah. But now again, the scientific aspect, 1 year of separation before the divorce. As you know, many countries have taken this into their laws, that before you get divorced, you must be 1 year separated. And I think it's in China and some other places where they have started that, the rate goes down by sometimes up to 90%, 90, because it's not out of anger and so on then. You know, sometimes I get divorced, I divorce you or whatever and so on then. Very interesting, very interesting. Discouraged, but possible. Science and religion. The recognition of the sex impulse. Yeah. I think the first religion which accepts that this is sex is not bad. Yeah, which always was said, you know, it's bad and by the devil and God knows by whom. Well, devil, yeah. But so that it exists, but of course, like everything, boundaries are necessary, in and out of freedom and so on then. I hope it's not too fast. I try to make it not too fast, but it's a little bit to give you an overview about that. But there must some things be left for the seminar we have with John then at the beach then later then. Another governing principle is the principle of moderation and balance. Yeah, and I think many laws and principles we can understand based on that. There is a quotation which many Baha'is actually are not so much aware of. Abdul Baha says, "Now I shall tell you the essence of service. Share your time with God. Spend half of the day in search of livelihood, guaranteeing your material life and dignified appearance. And dedicate the other half in the acquisition of moral virtues and service at the threshold of God." If you would have time, we could now make some small working groups and we could discuss that. In positive psychotherapy, we have actually this balance model, which is really a wonderful thing. We are applying now in more than 50 countries. The idea is to have a balance in life between your physical needs, so like your body, your health, your work, your relationships, and the spiritual aspects of life then. And that you can only be healthy if you are in a balance. We go back, half of the day for, so to say, material life, money, and so would be job and dignified appearance is body, and the other half, more moral virtues and service. So half of the day, body and job, half of the day, relationship and spirituality. Very interesting thing. Some of the laws here, well, I think really regarding moderation and balance. One is this physical cleanliness we just discussed. As I said, moderation. Spirituality is nice, very good, but don't forget your body. Yeah, be clean and so on and so on. Then, for example, moderation. The length of a prayer is not decisive, but the devotion. It is said, should a person recite but a single verse from the holy writings in the spirit of joy and radiance, this would be better for him than reciting all the scriptures of God. I mean, this is again, we are speaking about some fundamental laws. So once we understand them, we can expand them on other areas of human life then, and so on. So this length that I run around with this book and so on, and everybody thinks I'm so spiritual, but I'm very bored. As you say, be careful not to be overtaken by fatigue or boredom. Yeah, again, we have to read this then and so on. No, one single verse, it's fine. Then a very interesting, from the psychiatric point of view, accept invitations with joy and cheerfulness. Friends, again, we are speaking about the chart of the new world civilization. 69 pages. And Baha'u'llah mentions you have to accept invitations. What does it mean? Could it be that spiritual people would have the tendency to pull out from society, to go on a mountain or sit at the beach in clear water and think, oh, I am peaceful with God and with the nature, everything is wonderful and so on, then, yeah, but this is not the real life. Real life is you have to get into society and so on, then. You have to get a family, pay taxes and this and that and clean your house and so on, then. So accept invitations, go out. And it's interesting that we have this Baha'i meetings, yeah, where you're always encouraged to go out and so on, then. And the prohibition of wasting time, laziness, and idleness. It is prohibited. So when they ask what is prohibited in the Bahai-Faith, it's to be lazy. Well, at that time, Netflix didn't exist and all these kind of things then. So that's also something for us all to think about, yeah? Netflix, internet time, and so on then. Okay, I think this would be not too much for this moment as the time's limited like this, then yeah. This also we can do next time. Good. Two more things I want to bring. One is the principle of consultation. If people ask what is new in the Bahai-Faith, we sometimes mention very strange things, but it might be good to say it's a principle of consultation. It is said that, as Baha'u'llah says, in all things it's necessary to consult. Without prior consultation, take no important step in your own personal affairs. Men and human beings must consult on all matters, whether major or minor, so that he or she may become cognizant of what is good. Consultation, frank and unfettered, is the bedrock of this unique order. Just 3 laws from the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, maybe which we can understand under this principle. One is we have this consent of parents for marriage. So we have the law that first you choose your partner, and then your parents have to give the consent, hopefully. Yeah. But again, it's not consent like yes or no. It is the question about consultation. Consultation, so the 4 parents, the 2 of the lady, the 2 of the husband, or the groom, and the 2, so that 6 people sit together and consult about that. It's not sometimes easy when you fell in love and you think that's the only person in the world, but nevertheless, that is the principle of consultation. Then we have this: to consult competent physicians when you are ill, and to consult with each other. So that means that not only one person decides something, but you have to consult with other people and to try to find a solution to that. There are many others, but I think that's also interesting that this is also brought up here. And the last thing which I want to bring today is, which is also a huge subject for itself. It would be, John, a whole camp would be necessary for that, is the principle of justice. In the Baha'i concept, it's clear it is justice, not only love and forgiveness. Justice includes love and forgiveness. Just a few examples. One is, you can lose your parental rights because education is not voluntarily. It is voluntarily to get the child or not. You don't need to have a child. It is recommended. If you don't want, it is your decision. But if you don't educate your child, yeah, I mean, education, you know, in English, you have only one word for this. We speak now about this parental education, the moral virtues and behavior. We are not speaking about the academic education. It's also important, but the other is more important. So you can lose your parental rights, for example, that we have this, especially in my field, every day we are dealing with that. Either, for example, or sometimes parents say, this is my child, I can do with him or her what I want. No, it is not your child. Yeah. Or, for example, after a divorce, then often the fathers are not allowed to see the child anymore, and so on. Then this is not possible. This is not the Baha'i concept. Yeah, divorce might happen, but both are the educators, for example. So education is not voluntarily. So if you lose your parental rights, you will not be able to later be, you won't be asked for your consent when your child wants to get married. Yeah, you will not be asked because you have lost your parental rights, and we have had these cases. Then, for example, here they said, should a husband have omitted to fix I think a time for his return? You know, we had that when you go away, you have to say when you come back. His wife or the husband should wait for 1 full year, after which she shall be free either to adopt a course what is praiseworthy or to choose for herself another husband. I never understood that, but in the 1990s, I lived for 8 years in Russia. Yeah, and at that time, you know, it was a quite challenging time. And there was really the case, sometimes people left the house and they were for years, they were gone. God knows where they were. And then suddenly they came back after, I don't know, a few years or so, and then expecting everybody, you know, waiting for them. Yeah, but this is not possible. So again, here, that's justice. You think you have the right to go and don't say when you are coming back, okay. But the other has the right also to wait a year, but then can go on with his or her own life and not wait forever. We have the principle of collective security. And let me see if I have this here. No, I don't have this. Here. The collective security, Baha'u'llah explains that should one country take up arms against another, what nowadays happens, unfortunately, too often, rise you all against him, for this is naught but manifest justice. Yeah. So should any king take up arms against another, all should unitedly arise and prevent him, and so on. Then, so that's the Baha'i concept. So it's not only pray for him, you can pray for him, but imagine again, you have the world unity, world peace, and one country again gets a leader who is very strange and starts to fight. All the other countries have to then rise against this country, and then for sure this war will be finished very, very quickly, and so on. Then, yeah, but not under the leadership of one country; it's in the whole humanity. Or the other principle is the possibility of capital punishment or life imprisonment. Here again, sorry, here it is explained, I think this also is a basic principle. Shoghi Effendi, in response to a question about this first of the Aqdas, affirmed that while capital punishment is permitted, an alternative life imprisonment has been provided. He states, Baha'u'llah has given us a choice and has therefore left us free to use our own discretion within certain limitations imposed by this law. So again, this is a constitution. So this book gives the, as you see, a limitation, the framework. What then a country will decide what they do or so, this is something else. But it's not, as you see, oh, we all love each other and no, this is a nice person. No, there are sometimes cases, not today, but if someone by purpose does it, when society is has peace, everybody has a job, everybody has money, and you still want to commit some crimes, then the society has to react. Another thing I want to share with you is the following. Sexual intercourse during the year of patience costs a lot of money, even with your own wife. It's $4,500. What does it mean? A couple gets separated and they have this year of patience, so they have to wait. So far, so good. During this year, at any moment, they can decide we want to live together. What they cannot do is that we get together, have emotional, whatever, physical relationship, then again we get separated, and so on and so on. This ambivalence, or well, we get separated, but let's enjoy until that time and so on. No, it's not possible. And this in a future society, all these laws are about future societies. It's not about today. Then there would be even this law. So I think that's the interesting thing for setting the frame. Therefore, I put it here, for my understanding, under this principle of justice. You can get divorced, okay? There's a regulation, 1 year of you are separated. If you want to end it anytime, you're more than welcome. But you cannot jump like this and that the whole time and so on, then and betray everybody else. Just for this thing then. Okay. So friends, the last slide I want to show, and then I think we can get to that, is that first of all, these principles I shared to you, many of them are for a future society. Therefore, they are not also, of course, in action now, and these governments have to put them into practice one day. But as Abdu'l-Baha says, peace must first be established among individuals until it leads in the end to peace among nations. I think this is a fundamental sentence. We usually try to do it the other way around. If we say this book, which claims to be the future world constitution or so, and the emphasis is on relationships. So this shows once, because of these principles, there will be peace among people, there will be later also peace among the nations, but we cannot start with the other one. We have first to focus on the relationship among individuals, and that's where every one of us can do something. So thank you very much for your attention and for your patience. Unfortunately, I can just see the slides, so I think I get out from this, yeah, and then maybe we can get to that. So thank you very much. John?
Thank you, Dr. Pezeshkian. It was a very, very enlightening presentation. Of course, we understand that you'll be coming back to present again and discuss further these concepts that we have not covered today. And we thank you for that. Of course, be it in Zoom or in person, we are appreciative of either way. That being said, for questions, we recommend that all of you who have had questions, who have placed questions in the chat, are able to paste them here in the chat on Zoom. Of course, Jeremiah is checking the comments on YouTube and Facebook. We welcome all of you to leave those comments with your questions. Now, we have a question from me because I didn't see one before my question. So the question I have pertains to one of your slides where you had written section 119, regarding intoxicating and mind-consuming substances.
Yeah.
Now, the question is more focused and specific regarding the medical exception. And the question is more specifically, is the medical exception limited to alcohol? What other common mind-consuming substances are there that we should consider staying away from? And where does the medical exception apply? Is there understanding that the community has on this beyond alcohol?
It's a good question. As I said, with all of this, we have to see what Paula. I mean, of course he could, but of course it's not the idea to foresee what kind of mind-consuming things will come up the next 1,000 of years. Then, yeah, this is clear. And as you know, human beings, they will come up with a lot of ideas. Then, yeah, as we see already. From my understanding, it is so. So everything which is like mind-consuming is not allowed. Even now, sometimes the governments allow that. Then, in this idea of to be very free and so on and so on. Then, but I think from a medical point of view, as far as I understand, if really it's a general medical practice that this might be good, for example, sometimes when a normal painkiller is not enough, you have to take. You have to take some. Sorry, I'm here. Yeah. For sometimes you have to take some other drugs. You augmented with that and so on. So I think there is no limitation to that. But usually, I think you would go and ask at least 2 doctors. So I think you should get a second opinion. I know some people say my doctor told me this is fine, but I think again it's a concept of that. Yeah, I mean if there's I know some people they take homeopathic drugs and there's a little bit alcohol in that. They make a big fuss of that. I don't know if that's the right thing. I think what is meant here really it's everything with the dignity of human beings. Then, yeah. For example, that in how many families have the violence in families has a lot to do with actually with drugs and alcohol. We know this. The spending of money, yeah, unfortunately, losing a lot of money has to do with that. A lot of car accidents have to do with that, and so on and so on. And even to be imprisoned, I think, has to do also a lot with that. So I think that's the way I see. But I think if it's necessary, then I would ask 1 or 2 medical doctors. I mean, that's the way how I understand it. Yeah.
That is very, very intriguing. Seeking a second opinion. That is definitely a concept that a lot of people may neglect when it comes down to selecting medical treatment. A lot of people will trust the first doctor they find that says what they want to hear. So
yeah, John, sorry, John, and I think we had this now with the pandemic. We had this with the vaccination and other things, and that of course some people choose also that the doctor. So it's not that I go to a doctor, but I choose to whom I go, so to say. Then yeah, which is understandable. But I think if it's important, it's always again consultation. Yeah, I mean consult with two different doctors, and usually they have different opinions, but nevertheless, maybe it is helpful, I think, then.
And perhaps the concept of integrity, honesty, and exercising a good conscience comes into play when we are choosing the medical advice that we clearly know there may be an exactly opposite opinion on, just because we found the one who says what we want to hear.
Yeah. Especially in the States, where I think usually you don't have insurance, and the doctor makes a lot of money. Here in Germany or in Europe, when you have insurance, then it is sometimes different. Then, yeah. So that's also plays a role there. Yeah. Anyhow,
some definite considerations to take into account. And I want to ask you a question regarding something. I think you said you want to leave a part of it for the next seminar, so I won't go into the part that we will save for later. But the concept of married persons, spouses on a journey. I'm sorry, I don't have the section from Aqdas that you're citing, but the Aqdas speaks on this subject of relationships between spouse when they're traveling. There's several others that may not have been mentioned, but I'm asking a conceptual question rather than a specific question. Conceptually, we understand that if there's a conflict on the journey and how spouses are to communicate, it's extremely important to consider and apply what the Aqdas it says about respect of the other spouse. Now, my question is, can these rules be emblematic, or if you will, exemplar may not be the best term, but can it be extended or transposed into other situations for other human to human relationships outside of the institution of marriage? Because again, the Aqdas is a book that is the charter for world civilization, and yet there are many circumstances specifically that are, of course, not exactly covered. Can certain circumstances be can it be used as an example of how we treat other humans, say assembly member to assembly member of a spiritual assembly, or children to amongst themselves in a family household? So, or in a work environment, if someone goes off to the restroom and then wants to go somewhere else, but before they go, they should alert their superior, hey, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'll be back. So that if something wrong happens, or they go into a forest, a bear attacks them, knowing when to go after them if there's a bear or not. I just brought out a bear example, but I think everyone gets the idea. It doesn't just mean bears, all right? Some kind of tragedy, checking up on them. Are you alive?
John, I thought you have sharks maybe in Florida, not bears, but
exactly.
Yeah,
we mainly have sharks in the ocean, but I hear there's coyotes locally now, but there's no recorded case of a coyote attack that we know recent.
John, I think you answered your question yourself then, yeah? I mean, this was the whole idea, because as I said, a constitution, it is always very brief. Let's say, for example, we take the law, equality between men and women. Okay, that's the basis. You can't change it, it's the base. What does it mean in my daily life? I mean, God knows what it means, and it might be today like that. When the children move out, it's like that. When the grandmother is ill, it's like that. So these are the challenges. Therefore, also, so that sometimes people are looking for an answer. On one hand, we are very tricky people, but I think God knows how we are. You see, on one hand, we want like a book, a handbook for daily life, page 45, what to do today in that case. On the other hand, if it would be there, we would show a lot of resistance. Yeah, why is someone telling me what I should do? So therefore, the frame is there in the interpersonal relationships. Yeah, and that's, I think it's only an example with this on the trip, exactly as you said. And now we have to apply this to all the other cases, with our neighbor, with the DHL and Amazon driver, at the working place, with my children, husband, grandmother, whatever, how we deal with that. So I think it's really just it's an example, it's a frame, and it's our challenge to apply that and so on. So not a world without problems is the vision of the future, but a world, so to say, with like methods, techniques, how to deal with these conflicts when they arise. Very interesting thing, I think. And it gives us the responsibility, and we can't go to the book and say, okay, what is written on page 45? This is, I have to apply this, for example, with my family, sit down and think, what does it mean then? For example, what does equality means now for each of us then, and so on then? Who is going to work? Who is going to take care of the children, and so on and so on then? This is nothing you can make for 8 billion people for the next 1,000 years. I mean, we have 8 billion individualists in future, yeah.
A lot to consider. A lot to consider indeed. Now, there's one last hand raised, one last person. We messaged in the chat, Denise, and then we'll be closing out for today. Denise, welcome.
Denise, your microphone. Denise?
Yeah, we can't hear you, Denise. Sorry.
Yeah, you had to unmute me.
All right, cool.
I actually don't have a question. I really want to thank you, Hamid. And I listened to you 30 years ago when you first spoke about the Kitáb-i-Aqdas. It might have been a summer school or a winter school. I don't remember. You were just back from Russia. You were totally excited. And you were talking about the Kitáb-i-Aqdas. So I had to be here. And if you ever consider coming to the US, please do not forget Detroit. And I don't know if you really know, but we are cousins, I think now. So, so don't forget your family in Detroit if you ever make it.
Okay.
And in the summer, it's really nice. We also have beaches in Detroit. You would not know.
Okay. I thought you only have a car industry, but I see. Okay.
So much more.
So John, you see, this meeting has already a direct result. I found a cousin, which I didn't know. She's my cousin now in Detroit even. But yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Denise.
There you go. There you go.
See?
Connections. Okay. Communication.
And to give you a hint, my last name would have been Blumenthal. So
now it's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
There we go. We want to thank all of you who have joined us here today on Zoom, and all of you, of course, on Facebook, all of you on YouTube. We welcome you, please, to remain patient as we get ready for our next presentation. And again, Dr. Pezeshkian will be speaking on this subject, on the ones that we didn't cover, but perhaps we may need some reminding on the subjects or some extra gleaning on some of the subjects we may have discussed today. So we're waiting for that. When that happens, we're very happy to hear. And with that being said, we want to thank all of you who have come here to be with us on Zoom. We thank you, and we wish you a beautiful weekend. But first, please, if you haven't checked out our YouTube page, our Facebook page, please like and subscribe so that we can produce more videos of this nature. And that is Clearwater Baha'is on YouTube, and on Facebook, the Baha'i Center of Clearwater. And again, YouTube, you need an account to subscribe with your account, a Gmail account, Google account, and Facebook, you'll need a Facebook account. With that being said, you're more than welcome to come to clearwaterbahais.org, and we have our schedule of what's going on pasted on clearwaterbahais.org, as well as some bios such as of Dr. Pezeshkian that we had on today. Again, thank you, Doctor. We look forward to having you very soon.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much, then. Thank you very much. Yeah, all the best. Thank you.
Likewise. Bye-bye, everyone.